Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer to learn more. See you this summer.
So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Welcome to the Susan LoPresti Wellness Mind, Body, and Soul podcast, the go-to space for midlife and mature women who are ready to reclaim their health, boost their energy, and live long, vibrant, and purposeful lives. Each week, we dive deep into natural wellness, holistic healing, anti-aging strategies, and healthy lifestyle habits to help you feel your best physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Whether you're navigating menopause, working through chronic conditions, or simply wanting to age gracefully and intentionally, this show is your sanctuary for science-backed insights, powerful stories, and soul-nourishing inspiration. So if you're a woman over 40 or 50 or older, looking to thrive in the next chapter of your life, you are in the right place. Today's guest is Troy Laing. Troy has spent more than 20 years in biohacking and human optimization. He is passionate about sharing holistic practices that create lasting well-being. His own path has been shaped by overcoming addiction and trauma, which sparked his drive to help others to rise above their circumstances and find renewed purpose. He specializes in personalized protocols that blend micronutrient support, simple lifestyle changes, and technology to support everything from reversing chronic conditions to cancer recovery and peak sports performance. At Culture OC, his recovery and performance center in Newport Beach, he works daily to empower clients and build healthier communities with evidence-based non-invasive methods. He is going to discuss strategies and share the lessons he has learned from transforming his own life and also guiding others. His goal is always to offer practical takeaways that you can use in your own healing journey. With a background in both education and hands-on client care, he strives to connect with a broad audience, including the group of 6,000 health and wellness coaches and men's mental health advocates who follow his work. And without further ado, Troy, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm really excited about our conversation and can't wait to dive right in.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on as a guest.
It's my pleasure. It really is. Thank you. I'm excited for this conversation. So you shared with me that your personal journey and your inspiration, you overcame addiction and trauma, and that was a turning point in your life. So can you walk us through that experience and how it fueled your passion for biohacking and human optimization?
Yeah, so I grew up. I mean, we all have a story that sort of where we have challenges that can shape our subconscious conditioning in regards to our autonomous programming, in regards to our early brain development. And I grew up in an environment with what I call high functioning alcoholics. So, daily drinkers, whilst they were, adding to society and holding down a job, all their spare time was constructed around, drinking, which there were a lot of challenges in regards to verbal domestic abuse and things going on at a very early age for me.
Mhm.
I started my first trade. I'm an electrician, an instrumentation electrician by trade, which I started when I was 15 years old. And in Australia, the culture around tradies and being in the construction industry is heavily influenced by, that sort of lifestyle. When you finish work, you're at the pub or grabbing beers on the way home. And so from a very early age, I was influenced by alcoholism. And then through my 20s, in different parts of my life, had several stages of different addictions with different drugs, as well as, alcohol and substance abuse. But the one pillar that really helped me throughout these stages of alcoholism and substance abuse was at the age of 15, something else that I did that had no influence from the environment I grew up in was I became very interested in physical movement, resistance training, weight training. And I would say that was really spurred by Hollywood. I was a 80s baby, so I was born in 83. During those years, is very influential with action movies such as Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Van Damme. So my early connection to that was obviously the look of male's physique. But then throughout my life, it's something that remained consistent. And I realized that it had so much more benefits for my mental health and how I felt. And it was the one thing that helped me get through challenges with addictions and substance abuse. So I had this deep connection to some sort of physical movement and resistance training for mental health.
Mhm.
But throughout my 20s, I lived a very I would say, challenging life in regards to my choices. And at the age of 31, which I feel for men specifically, they tend to mature a lot later in life regarding as you go through different decades of your life and getting to the age of around 30, you do start to have some different internal feelings of what you want from your future. So at the age of 31, I was actually in the Himalayas doing a trek through the Himalayan mountain ranges. And I really had this life-changing experience that if I don't change my ways and what I'm doing, one, I'm either not going to have the life in the future or have a life in general moving forward. And I won't really go down the path of where I want to take my life, which is meeting someone and sharing my life with someone, having a beautiful wife, children. And so at the age of 31, that's where I really dive. I'm 42 now. That's where I really dive deep into more human optimization and biohacking and life longevity. So I really started my path with understanding childhood psychology and early brain development because I wanted to understand what was making me make the choices that I would make and why I was so easily influenced in environments around that sort of culture of drinking and drug taking. And that's where I started to make significant changes in regards to I dive deep into breath work and meditation. That led me into a community that was right into cold plunging or cold water immersion work. Through that community, I met a community that was right into float therapy or sensory deprivation, which I used that therapy specifically with a therapist and counselor to really unlock and dive deep into some of the things of my childhood that were leaving some sort of traumatic subconscious conditioning that I wanted to unpack and unfold so that I wouldn't continue to make the same decisions moving forward into my, next part of my life of adulthood and manhood to really change my life and turn it around.
Wow, that's incredible. What what a transformation for you, right?
Yeah,
I
huge
love it.
transformation.
Yes. So, many people, right, they feel stuck in their struggles, whether it's health or mindset or lifestyle or drug addiction, alcoholism. From your own journey, what first steps can someone begin to take to shift towards healing and empowerment? What would you suggest?
There's two things that I found really significant. So one of my biggest choices was to remove myself from the environments of influence.
Hmm.
And I grew up on the east coast of Australia, so Sydney is the closest big city where I grew up in that area of Australia. And I wasn't making judgment of the people around me. I wasn't judging my friends or my family or my parents for their lifestyle choices. I had to have that inner reflection of my inability to control myself around these environments of influence. So one of the first things I did was I actually moved from Sydney to Perth, which is the same equivalent from moving LA to New York. And I moved and started a whole new life in regards to what I wanted. Now, the first 2 years while I made this transition, I actually isolated myself from society. So I wasn't going to environments like pubs and clubs and places of influence. But
Yeah.
what I found during that period of time, I was doing all this rehabilitation work, whether it was some form of meditation, breath work, detoxing using saunas. But what I found along that part of the journey is that I became very depressed because I didn't have community. So I think the important thing is to be able to remove yourself from the influential environments that maybe, bring you back into doing things that you don't want to do. But we are tribal people and we need to have good community. So then it's also being able to find community values and communities that share the same intentions of where you want to take your life. So with that, after that 2 year period, I met this community that still exists today when every day they're a free community that meets down the beach and they do cold water dips. So whether it's freezing cold winter or the beautiful summer days, they're there every morning. Everyone meets with a hug and there is no connection to any sort of recreational influence in regards to the culture of drinking and all the things that I was trying to move away from. So after that 2 year period where I'd done all this work in regards to self-development and self-love, I needed to find a community that I could really connect with that was in line with the intention of where I wanted to take my life. And when I met them, that's where my whole life really changed and started to take off in a big way because then I had that sense of being part of community.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing of being part of community and what I've found is that when you're with people who have had similar struggles and they're sharing their stories and they're sharing their triumphs of breaking free from the cycle, that's where you start to get your real growth because one thing about anxiety and depression and isolation is you feel like you're the only one going through that. But when you find communities and can be around, whether it's other men or women that can share similar stories of their own challenges and breaking free from that, that's where you really start to grow as a person because you realize, hey, I'm not the only one going through this. And there are other people and examples around me that have been there, done that, and been through it. And so you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel of like what your life can be.
Yeah. Now, did you ever try a 12-step program?
No, I have been in groups with AA, but I haven't done the 12-step program
Mm.
myself. What I've found and what I teach in men's circles and men's mental health is my own intellectual property now, where I've taken different aspects of different educational or training mechanisms that have helped people and
Yeah.
brought that together with like what really helped shift my life from my experience and my journey. But
I love it. I
yeah, but
love it.
those programs, there is like I know a lot of people who've been through them, and there is a huge amount of benefit there because it's a lot of those programs are really bringing the core essence back to seeing something more than your physical being. So believing in something of a higher faith or some sort of spiritualism where you realize your physical entity, there's so much more to that on a spiritual or energetic level, and connecting the dots through that sort of teachings is very important.
Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful. And it's incredible that you stepped away from that and you changed your whole entire life, which is beautiful. I want to go on to biohacking. Can you describe what that is exactly?
Yeah, so biohacking is a term really created by who they call the godfather of biohacking, Dave Asprey, where if you think of a computer software and you have hackers, what they're doing is they're hacking into the software to manipulate it or take control of it. So we're doing the same with our biology. So that's the bio part, and the hacking part is where we're using different things externally to force a biological response. So that could be peptides, it could be supplements, or we have technologies such as red light therapy, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, different treatments and technologies that we're using to shift and cause a biological response. So we're hacking into our own biology to optimize our cellular performance.
Wow. So you've been in that space for over 20 years now. How has that field evolved, and what practices do you find most effective today?
The field has evolved tremendously. I think well, I would say two things that's really evolved at a faster rate is the introduction of social media and access to people who are in this space talking about it and sharing
Oh,
different technologies. And also the pandemic was really a big eye-opener for people because if you had a good quality of health, in the early days, we could see that if you were a reasonably healthy person, you were less likely to get sick or less likely to get sick in a way that harmed you. And this created a big focus on people wanting to take more ownership and responsibility of their own health and wellness. And so during this last 5 years, we've really seen this industry take off in a big way. And I think it is just because of the leaders in this space who are continuous. Like you have the Andrew Hubermans and the Gary Breckers and people that are having podcasts and talking about different therapies and things that we can really take control over our own biology. This has really seen the whole space take off. And now we just because of that, we are seeing a lot more scientific and clinical researchers behind different treatments and different protocols and different technologies.
Mhm.
But the world of biohacking is significant because I always want my clients and members to have some level of ownership and understanding of their health and wellness, but I'm not telling them to self-diagnose. We're not going onto Google or AI and trying to diagnose what we have. We still have great doctors who are doing great functional medicine work and looking for root causes. But you should be well equipped with the right questions to walk into a doctor's facility and know whether you're talking with a doctor who's going to look for the root cause of the problem or someone who I refer to as a big pharma rep who is
Yeah.
just wanting to prescribe you a medication based on what your symptoms are, which is not always looking at the root cause and where the issues are coming from. From a biohacking point of view, what we're really doing is we're utilizing and doing different treatments or different protocols to see how our body responds. And because we are all biologically different, not all of us react the same way to certain treatments or medicines. For me, breath work and cold plunging specifically had a huge impact on my life in changing my life. But cold plunging is a very intense therapy. And if it's not taught correctly, which is why we teach a whole guided breath work and how to control your fight or flight response, it can have a negative response on the body. And even if you are doing all the right mechanisms of action to control your response and how you adapt to the environment, it's not for everyone. If you're having a negative response after trying to do something, it's generally a good indication that that therapy isn't really what your body needs.
Yeah, I do in the shower at the very end. I'll turn the water all the way to cold, and it gives me a jolt. But after a minute or two, I sort of adjust to it and it's okay. But I won't say that I really enjoy it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
well, what you shared there is a very important part of it. Why I love cold plunging is because there is a huge amount of physiological benefits, such as inflammation reduction. You get the release of cold shock proteins, which help restore the body, increase your immune variability and immune health.
yeah.
But there's no one wants to be immersed in cold water. Your natural fight or flight is to get you out of that space, especially in a cold plunge because it's so cold. But when you do things like that, I love it because of the psychological benefits. So when you're inherently doing something you don't want to do, like being in a cold shower or a cold plunge, you're actually starting to rewire your brain in regards to how you manage stress and discomfort. Because when you inherently do something that you don't want to do, it starts to rewire the neurological pathways in regards to how you manage stress and discomfort. But this is a huge benefit in just day-to-day life. When you're faced with confrontation, when you're faced with stress,
Yeah.
when you are pushing yourself inherently to do something you want to do, you're actually rewiring your ability emotionally to be able to have those challenges and face them head on because you're already inherently pushing yourself outside your comfort zone by having a cold shower or jumping in a cold plunge.
Wow. That's good to know, really. So, biohacking, right? It can sound intimidating to a lot of people. How do you simplify it for everyday individuals who just are looking to feel better, they want to live longer, and they want to perform at their best? How do you just simplify it so they don't feel overwhelmed by the whole term and concept of it?
Yeah, keeping it simple is the most important thing because you don't want to, with anything, if you're going to change someone's diet or even if you're going to go into a new physical training program of weight training or resistance training, you don't want to go too overcomplicated because people become overwhelmed and
Yeah.
that's when they'll instantly pull out of everything they're doing. What we do even with our wellness intake form here is we're really looking at people's lifestyle as a whole well-rounded overview of what they're doing, because you can make small adjustments, something as simple as making some small adjustments to a diet, or if you don't have any form of physical activity, physical activity is one of the best precursors to anti-aging outside of anything. And we have the science that backs that up. So, especially as we age, some level of weight or resistance training has shown to really slow the aging process down because of metabolic health by the amount of muscle tissue that you have on your body. And metabolic health is everything to our immune health. So we want to look at some of the smaller things that we can make simple adjustments in. And if you haven't done any form of training, even going for a 30-minute, low intensity walk every day, just to start somewhere. So we want to really look at someone's lifestyle and start to aim at a really simple level and not overwhelm them. Because if you give someone too many tasks or too many things to do, they'll get too overwhelmed with it. And the first thing they'll do is they'll just pull out straight away because they'll see it as something that's too hard to accomplish. So you just want to create little milestones and then slowly build up from that. So even having a performance and recovery center where we have all these different technologies and different treatments, when we have someone coming to us, we want to actually look at what are some of the simple changes we can make first that's actually going to give you a better quality of life and better longevity. And that may not even involve coming here to do anything, because if you don't have a decent diet, nutrition, you don't have any form of physical activity, or you're not getting the right amount of sleep or even water intake, all these little things can be simply adjusted in the comfort of your own home.
Right. What about the role of micronutrients? How does that play in reversing chronic conditions and also supporting recovery? And what are the most overlooked ones in your experience?
Well, I know you've had a big focus with women and hormone balancing and understanding micronutrients within the body and what they do. And it's very important. So most of us are deficient in vitamin D. And unfortunately, vitamin D is something that we naturally get from being exposed to sunlight at certain periods of the day. We have the UVA or UVB rays that react with our cholesterol that naturally produces vitamin D in the body. But our lifestyles have changed so dramatically since we were primal people that we're not outside enough to be exposed to the light that we need. So vitamin D is a powerful nutrient in regards to immune health and immune function. So one of the best micronutrients to have, because we're all deficient in it, is some form of vitamin D supplementation. But what I found here too, and I'm not sure, I'm just referring to here in the States, where I think it's something like 60 to 80% of the population have a gene, the MTHFR gene, which if you have that gene, and most of us do, this is your methylation gene, where you can take as many supplements as you like, but if you have this gene, your body's not going to absorb them the way it needs. And I do regular blood testing, which having some form of blood testing is one of the best ways to look at your micronutrient levels, your hormone levels, to get a baseline and understanding of what is happening in your body.
Yeah.
And with that MTHFR gene, I take a simple thorn supplement that helps me methylate things properly. And by doing that, because I get blood tests done, every 6 months, just to be on top of my biohacking and where everything's at, I did have a deficiency in being low in vitamin D, even though I'm in California and I'm outside quite a lot. I love the sun, and some other micronutrients like DHEA that I was low in. And I was taking supplements, but my levels weren't really shifting that much. And then when I started taking the Thorn methylation product with my supplements, the next time I did my blood work and blood testing, all my levels went up to optimal levels. So it was just a deficiency in my body able to absorb nutrients. And so you can do gene testing and blood work. And to get a good understanding of where your body's at, what it needs, and what you're deficient in, because this goes down to cellular function, ATP and cellular energy production, immune health. It has a huge array of things that it affects, from autoimmune issues. And then you can start to look at your deficiencies and try to supplement those deficiencies to get them up to optimal levels.
Can you share that gene again that you said in the beginning that doesn't allow us
Yeah.
to absorb the
So,
vitamins?
so excuse my language, but the gene is MTHFR gene, which actually they refer to as the motherfucker gene because of
Right, that's what I thought.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, yeah, but MTHFR is the gene, and then Thorne has a really good supplement, and they're great supplements. I think it's MTHF supplement. It's a simple pill that you can take, and there's no negative side effects. So, if you didn't want to do the gene test, but you wanted to take something because there is a high potential that you might have it, it's something you just take with your other supplements that allows your body to then absorb those micronutrients.
Okay. Wow, that's great advice. Yes, I've heard of that, Jean. I know
Yeah,
what you're talking about. I just wanted to be sure.
yeah.
So let's go on to talk about recovery and performance a little bit. So at Culture OC, your recovery and performance center, you blend holistic practices, right,
Yep.
with cutting edge technology. So can you share some of the non-invasive methods that you've seen or that you created with the biggest impact?
Yeah, so what I've really done with my background and knowledge in regards to my intellectual property is we've done combined protocols using technology. And our most significant one that's had a huge amount of success with everything from people going through chemotherapy to athletic performance, chronic health issues, or just longevity is a combination of it's technically four therapies, but it's done in three stages. And the first stage of that is we have a PEMF mat, which stands for pulse electromagnetic frequency. There's a lot of like red light and PMF is technologies that have a lot of research even from NASA because when the astronauts were going up into orbit and having zero gravity, your body needs some level of impact to regenerate in regards to when you're walking, you're on the surface or you're moving resistance training, you're having a biological response. And when you're in space, you're in zero gravity, so there's no impact on your body, which your body needs for bone mineral density structure, muscle and tissue regeneration. So the PMF mat, which we start with, which is the first part of our super healing protocol, you're on a mat that's emitting an electromagnetic field around your body, and this increases microcirculation and blood flow, reduces inflammation in the body. And our mat specifically has different layers of natural crystals in it, which is all about aligning your natural energy chakras. And it has infrared technology in it as well. So it's heating up the tissue, which is great for inflammation reduction. While you're on this PMF mat, we have a device called a brain tap. That's an audio headset that uses light and audio frequencies. So, like any normal audio headset that you would wear, you have the earpieces on, and it has a visor that comes down over your eyes. And then with your eyes closed, there's a pulsating light that you can see with your eyes closed that is geared towards, there's over 2,000 different meditations, and those meditations are for different genres or different subjects such as stress relief, sleep patterns, performance, creativity. And so we will structure that meditation because that meditation is all about your subconscious conditioning. So we're trying to reset your subconscious, which is your autonomous thinking program where you're not consciously thinking about what you're doing. And this message is ingraining new subconscious patterns. But the technology and the clinical studies and the beauty of that is what it's doing is it's shifting your brainwave activity into more of a delta or theta state, and that is your parasympathetic state of recovery. Now, the beauty of being in this parasympathetic state is your brain is what's sending and receiving signals for healing the body. So when we're going to go on to our next therapy, which is our red light therapy bed, and then that's followed by a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, we're putting your brainwave activity in the most healing space it can be in because your brain is what's sending and receiving signals throughout all your body and connecting with all the cells in your body. So we want to be in a parasympathetic state, which is the same state we get to when we're in our REM or deep sleep patterns, because that's when our body goes through regeneration. So we're on our PMF mat. We're getting that increased blood flow and circulation, reduced inflammation. We've got the brain tap on that's putting us in that healing space from a psychological point of view. And then we'll go on to our LED light therapy bed. This is a bed that's emitting two different wavelengths of red light, two different wavelengths of infrared light, and it's increasing the amount of ATP, which is cellular energy. So we're made up of trillions of cells. We want those cells to be able to produce as much ATP from their mitochondria as possible. And all our cells are communicating. So this gives increased cell communication outlet. And it also releases trapped nitric oxide from the cells that line the artery walls. So what that does is that dilates your circulatory system. So once again, we're getting an increase in blood flow and circulation, which is very important for healing. We need good circulation because that's how our red blood cells and our oxygen molecules get around to heal the tissue. And then outside of that, we've seen through studies an increase in bone mineral density, which is your bones start to weaken as we age.
Yeah.
But when your resistance training does that, the red light bed helps that by increasing bone mineral density. We've seen other things such as the regeneration of eyesight, stimulation of hair growth. So the benefits of red light therapy or LED light therapy combined with infrared is phenomenal. And then from our red light bed, we go from there into our hyperbaric oxygen chamber. In the chamber, this is a pressurized vessel that you're inside of. You're breathing in 95 to 100% oxygen. And under pressure, that the law of Dalton and Boyle's gas, where that oxygen gas is then saturated into the liquid portion of your blood plasma. And under pressure, that blood plasma is forced into the tissue. So we get the anti-aging benefits. We have stem cell mobilization from the bone marrow. We have inflammation reduction. And then we're getting more oxygen through that microcirculation to parts of the body that can become hypoxic over time, meaning a lack of oxygen to the tissue. And outside of that, it's a really strong antimicrobial, and it kills off senescent cells in the body. So as we age, we have senescent cells, which are the cells that are dying off. When they are not being released from the body, they actually can cause a lot of inflammation, which then can lead to chronic health and chronic disease. So that's our super healing protocol, which is four treatments, 3 stations: PMF brain tap, red light therapy bed, and then into our hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And I use that and work with that with people with traumatic brain injuries or concussion problems, performance and athletic abilities for athletes. I have people with chronic health issues like chronic fatigue, Lyme's disease, and I've been helping a few clients in the last year who are either have some form of cancer diagnosis or are going through chemotherapy, where these therapies help offset the negative effects of chemotherapy medicine.
Wow. Is that your only facility? Or
Currently, this is the only facility. We've been open just over 2 years, but we are looking to expand out. And my big dream is to not just have locations all around the US, but to actually expand out and go internationally and have, well, it's a bit more of a personal goal, but I want to have locations in Australia to make it somewhat easier for me to go back. I'm from Australia and go back and visit family and create a big international business around healing and being able to help people, but also a little bit of selfish intention of being able to travel and see the world as well.
Yeah. Well, come to the East Coast, please.
Yeah, I actually have friends that live down in Florida who are interested in potentially opening up a facility there. So we definitely want to expand out and be in a lot more locations around the US.
Wow, that would be wonderful because this sounds fabulous. Like I would love to be a part of that. I really would. I want to go on to talk about mental health and community impact. You're deeply connected to men's mental health advocacy, right? So, what do you think are the biggest challenges that men face today, and how can communities better support them?
Growing up and I feel like there's a continuous heaviness on men about not being able to share how they feel. And they tend to bottle things up. And in Australia, we have a saying, she'll be right, mate, which means like, I'm okay, she'll be right, don't worry about it. But when we keep doing that, we're not allowing these emotions and things to come up, which when you store emotions inside you, that all they do is build and build up to the point where you start to be reactive, angry, lash out in ways that aren't beneficial to one, yourself, your friends, your family, your wife, your kids. And we're not emotionless. We have emotions. And so we need to have a way of an outlet to be able to express that. But in doing so, you want to be, when I mentioned the community in Perth and being around other men that shared their stories and challenges, there's a huge energetic release when you can talk about the things that are emotionally challenging you. And what is important is to be able to find safe environments where we can actually share that without judgment and without the wrong feedback. So, what I mean by the wrong feedback is you don't want to go and share your relationship challenges with your single friend who just wants you to go out and party with them, because
Right.
they're not going to give you the right information and understanding, and they'll mostly lead you down the wrong path. You want to be around other men who maybe have relationships, have a wife and kids, who maybe have the same challenges. And you do need, as a man, to find other men to be able to talk with. The same way women are really good at communicating with their friends and talking about things that are going on. And I think that's why, to a certain degree, that they have a level of emotional intelligence, because they're able to express them and talk about them a lot more with their friends, to be able to, release that energy and have a different outlook, as long as they're surrounded once again with good friends who have more positive outlook of how to manage things. And I don't feel men tap into this enough, and almost feel scared to, and like it's not manly enough to do that, where it's the complete opposite. A real man should be able to express his emotions and have the safety of being able to do that, because you need to be able to release this energy and then be surrounded by men and other environments who are able to give you the right outlook, the right information, and to give you the ability to feel grounded in regards to how to handle something. And that's why men's circles and men getting together to be able to talk through any issues and challenges is very important. And I think that's a big reason why men have such high suicide rates, because they don't have the ability to talk about it, or the environments to talk through things. And that's why the importance of men's circles and men coming together in a constructive, positive manner is a good way for them to be able to grow and release the challenges that they're facing, so that they're not committing harm to themselves or acting in a way where it's harmful to the people around them. We all have stressful lifestyles. It's just in the Western world, where we all have bills, we all have businesses and kids, or we have something going on that provides some level of stress. And if we don't have an outlet for it, then it's just boiling up inside us till breaking point, and eventually we break. So, and that's men and women. We all have these challenges.
Yeah, you make a great point there. You really do. So I want to ask if a listener could make just one small lifestyle change this week to improve their health and performance, what would you recommend?
I always come back to the term of self-love. Self-love is extremely important. Now, the self-love can have multiple different environments. So self-love can be your inner talk. How do you talk to yourself? We all talk to ourselves. We're not crazy. It's just part of our internal dialogue. But that are you positively talking about yourself and your life and where you want it to go? Because our psychology is our biology. The things we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we have, that constructs how our body responds to our environment. But self-love is every time you decide to buy or make a meal, what is that meal doing for your longevity? Like, what's the quality of life? Are you stopping at McDonald's every day, or getting, some form of takeaway food that's just depleting your body? That's not self-love, that's self-harm. Do you have any form of physical movement, or are you just on the couch or at your office all day long and not doing any form of physical activity? That is self-harm, not self-love. So self-love, it has a broad range of different things. But most importantly, I would start with your inner dialogue and how you're talking to yourself, because no amount of motivation and influence is going to push you to do something, but your inner talk and how you talk to yourself and your ideologies of what you want your life to be and where you want it to go is the first thing you need to really get on top of, because that's going to direct you and change your life completely.
Yeah, that's also great advice. So, any final thoughts that you'd like to leave the listeners with today?
Yeah, because we finished on the mental health side of things. Anyone watching or seeing this and hearing these words is to know that you're not alone. You're not alone unless you are creating that loneliness yourself. And I've been there. I've been in a isolated environment. I've had struggles with depression and anxiety and mental health issues. And one of the biggest causes of those issues is, one, feeling like you're alone, or two, not wanting to burden the people around you by talking about the challenges that you have. But those are the two most dangerous things of depression and mental health, because they're the two things that you actually need to do the opposite of. You need to be, talking with not anyone, but finding someone that you trust and has your best interests at heart, because you need to be able to express yourself and really just not being so hard on yourself. We are so incredibly hard on ourselves in regards to what we don't have, and our friends have this, or we don't have that job, or this car, or those clothes. These are all external materialistic things. Like, you need to take a deep look inside yourself and know that you are one of one. You're a unique human being, and you do have a gift, and you do have something to give back. You just have to really dive deep inside and find that self-love for yourself, and really be selfish in regards to looking after yourself. Because one thing that I teach is, I have two businesses and four kids, but I always make time to make sure I get some level of training. I love training, but I know, because that makes me feel good. And if I'm taking care of myself and providing self-love, it's not selfish. It's making sure that I make time for myself to turn up as the best version of myself. So I'm the best version for my kids and my wife and my friends, because I'm not so heavily bogged down in my emotions or my energy being so withdrawn because I'm not filling my own cup.
So your life has completely transformed because you went from being isolated and on this journey of really self-destruction, and now you are married, and you said you had four children.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your life is full, and you have this beautiful business that you've put together that is absolutely wonderful. So Troy, where can my listeners find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, so cultureoc.com is our website, which has all of what we've spoke about today regarding biohacking. Instagram, YouTube, if you look up Culture OC, you'll see a lot of videos of educational material, a lot of the things that we do. I do have some other offshoot social media channels, like men's mental health ones, which is Raw, Honest, Real, where I do a lot more focused video content for men's mental health. But all of them connect and lead to each other. So if you're looking for Culture OC, which is CULTURE, and then OC for Orange County, where we are, you'll stumble across a lot of different podcasts, educational information, our website. And for anyone watching that's over here on the West Coast, for any of your listeners, if they just mention the podcast, we'll give them a 30% discount on any sort of services or packages or memberships for the first month if they're wanting to try things out. And obviously, anyone visiting, same thing. Just mention the podcast, and we'd love for your listeners and followers to come and check out this space.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So move one of these to the East Coast. And if you do go to Florida, I have a home on the West Coast in Venice. So it would be
Oh,
great.
nice. Yeah, yeah, perfect. Yeah, well, I'll definitely let you know, because our intention is to be able to expand out and have a huge impact and change, our society to have more ownership of their health, more outlook on non-invasive treatments to get a better quality of longevity and recovery as well.
Yes, I love the work that you're doing. Troy, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck going forward.
It really is a pleasure to be on. And one last thing is that
Yes.
I always share this, because people like yourself who are doing these podcasts and creating avenues for people to get access to stories and information, to me, you guys are the real heroes, because the more people we can connect with, you guys are the ones that are making a huge impact and change on people's lives by allowing them the ability to access different things like this. So I really appreciate, one, you taking the time to have me on, and the work that you're doing by having people like myself and the other guests that you have in different spaces on, because it does in some way have an impact, even if it's one person's life that sees this or sees another podcast of yours and it changes their direction. That's the domino effect, one person at a time. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming on. If you enjoyed this episode and you could think of anyone who could benefit from listening to this episode, please share it out with them. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave me a comment and let me know what you thought. And if you're not currently subscribed to my channel, please make sure to follow me so that you know when I drop the next episode of my podcast. Again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now. Take good care, everyone.